Okay, good morning. And welcome to the January meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District. We're in Mayfield, New York. And I would ask that we all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As is the custom in January, we have an organizational meeting where we elect the officers for the coming year, or for the year. And so I would like to call to order the organizational meeting at 10:02. And in your booklet, you have the agenda and motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda.
Make a motion. Oh,
Yes.
Let's do a roll.
Would you like to?
Okay,
We'll
let's
do
do
a roll. Philip Klein,
Here.
David Bergstresser,
Present.
Paul Cornell is excused, Michael Astaphan is excused, Thomas Stover excused. Albert Hayes.
Here.
Mark Finkel.
Here.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Robert Leslie.
Here.
Robert Fultan.
Here.
Carol Wright.
Here.
Richard Ferrari. Here. Mr. Chairman?
Good, thank you. Now, if we could, a motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda.
Make a motion to adopt.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
A second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. First order of business is the election of officers. And I would entertain nominations for chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Mr. David Bergstresser as chairman.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All right. I'm going to write these in as we go along. Are there any other nominations?
Who was the second?
I was the second. Oh, I filled this out wrong already. Okay, hearing no other nominations, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes. One abstention. 3 and 1.
3.
No.
Can't do 3 and 1?
You
You have to vote for yourself.
Look at both of you.
Aye.
Okay, good. All right. All right.
Thanks.
Is there a, okay. Is there a nomination for the first vice chair person?
I'd like to nominate Paul Cornell for first vice chair.
Okay. And is there a second? I'll second that. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then we need also a nomination for the second vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Albert Hayes,
Okay.
second vice.
I'll second that. Just doing the paperwork. Huh? Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, so the officers that we have elected for the 2011 year are David Bergstresser for chairperson, Paul Cornell for first vice chair, and Albert Hayes for second vice chair. Moving on, the appointment of a secretary treasurer and assistant secretary treasurers. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and the motion would be,
Mr. Ferrer for secretary treasurer, all three?
yep,
And that should be Mrs. Wright.
Okay. Mr. Fultan as assistant secretary and Ms. Wright as assistant secretary treasurer.
gotcha. Is there a second? I'll second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The designation of official newspapers, like a motion to that effect. And the papers are listed right below, usually what we do is these two.
I'll make that motion that we designate the Times Union as the official paper in Albany and the Watertown Daily Times in the Watertown area,
Okay.
Black River area.
Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Any other additions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Does it have to be a roll call? Because I noticed that it's,
No, I heard
Missed it.
all, and I've.
okay, fine. And then the tentative dates and locations for the 2011 board meetings, we need to move and second those that are in print in front of you. And I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
I'll second that motion as written.
So, Mr. Hayes, Mr. Bergstresser. And those are March 8th in Utica, April 12th in Warren County, May 10th in Johnstown, June 14th at Inlet, black fly season, July in Mayfield, September in Lowville, October will be in Utica, November in Saratoga County in Ballston Spa, and December in Watertown. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Are there any questions or comments with regards to the action that we have taken? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Finkel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And an organizational meeting is adjourned at 10:08. Thank you very much.
Very well done.
Oh, yeah. So, really, you want to take over?
No.
I think you have to.
I tried.
Yeah. There you go, the passing of the gavel.
So, shifting.
That's all right. Well, I'll leave them at my right hand. I'll leave them at my right hand.
Okay.
I think we
We discussed that. We'll leave them there for a little while. All right, so I guess we're going to call to order the January meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District.
Yep, we already did two.
We've done the roll call. Pledge. We don't have to do the roll call again, do we?
Yeah,
Go right ahead.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Klein,
I'm here.
Mr. Bergstresser,
Here?
Cornell, Astafan, and Stover are excused. Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Hayes. Mr. Finkel.
Here.
Mr. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Leslie.
Here.
Mr. Fulton.
Here.
Mrs. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Ferrara here. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll need, is there any revisions to the minutes from the last meeting? Any questions? Need a motion to adopt the minutes?
Well, I think we're doing the agenda.
Agenda, we're talking
Oh, are
about
we?
agenda, right?
Yep. So I make a motion, we adopt the existing agenda.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Adopt the existing, yes. Motion to adopt or revise the meeting agenda for today? Any
So
motion?
moved.
Mr. Klein. Second?
A second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm here for guests.
Nobody.
Okay.
Speaker. Motion for executive session be next. Don't want to do-
You want to do the executive?
Yep.
Do we have a need for an executive session today?
Not that I
See a motion, anyone?
Nope.
There being none, we will move on to the public comment period. And I have one who signed up, Mr. Pulin.
Yeah.
You stand right there. Thanks.
Right.
Thanks.
I don't, problem. Sure.
You handed it to him.
Yeah, I know. Threw you on
Yeah, you threw me off. Back in June, I questioned a permit area that was originally belonged to a Jenks and was purchased by my next door neighbor, okay? Mr. Fultan did come and examine it, and he basically left it the way that the surveyor did it, okay? But I want to point up a couple of things. That property now belongs to a Jim and Leslie Casey. And it shows 27 feet. I showed Mr. Fultan the deed to his property, which you have attached, Exhibit 3. It says it's 25 feet along the right-of-way. So where the 27 feet came from, Mr. Fultan stated that historically it's been 27 feet. Well, that puts it onto my property. So I did a little research. I went to the previous person who was your surveyor, and he said, I changed that. Because evidently I was wrong. When I measure from the stake, I find that it's more than 27 feet. It's 27 feet 8 inches. Now you start with an angle, it's already almost 3 feet off. When you get down to almost 700 feet, it's really off. For 23 years, down by the water, I had 210 feet. Now all of a sudden it's 186. Mr. Fultan also stated that if I don't have the 210 feet, I shouldn't be paying for it. He would have the surveyor come out and measure it, and if it's less than 200 feet, I should be dropped back. It's only $20. But the point is that I do not have 210 feet anymore, even though along the line I have 213.5 feet. I really do not want to hire my lawyer to fight this. It's a win situation for me because your previous surveyor has already stated that he changed it to 27 by mistake. So I would wish that you would review this. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me, okay? I'm more than willing to talk to you. I'm more than willing, well, you can't now. The snow is kind of deep.
Okay,
I-
so-
Once he's done.
I'm sorry, are you finished?
There's,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm done on this. If you have any questions on this.
Hey, go ahead.
I have one point of procedure. My understanding is that Mr. Fultan rendered a decision on
Yes.
Mr. Pullen's appeal. I'm not aware of an appeal coming before the board. If the board would like to treat this as that appeal, staff can prepare the executive director or the executive director's designate to hear that appeal as the final step in the typical appeal process before this matter, if it needs to be appealed to the board, is appealed to the board.
I'm I'm also looking into trying to find some older maps, okay? I don't really need the appeal right now,
Okay.
but I'd like you to review it, see what you think. Let me know if I need to appeal. If I need to appeal, I'll have my attorney do it.
I just have a couple of questions. I was a little confused.
Yes,
You went from 213 feet down to 180?
186, you measure it.
Okay, so you did an actual measurement yourself and came up with 186, or is?
Yeah,
Okay.
from where the new
Stakes are-
surveyor. I asked the former surveyor, why didn't you do this? He said, I have no comment. Because he was there for approximately 3 months, and I kept asking him for him to do it.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at this map that you furnished us. What is the 22.66? See, that's just off to the right of the yellow highlighted area? Is that another,
There's 2 monuments that are on that property,
okay?
okay? And what happened is that if you see that 13.2 feet, see where I'm talking about?
Not yet.
If you measure,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
if you measure over from that 13.2 feet, that actually comes almost 3 feet onto my own personal property. And what I'm saying is that 13.2 feet should be less than 11 feet. Now, I've already hired a surveyor who's marked off where my line is, and your survey mark is over from there. And it shouldn't be. Those stakes are in there. You will be able to see them in the spring, but
Yep.
Okay.
I can just about tell you exactly where they are.
Well,
Mr. Bergstresser.
You don't want to go down my
ahead, Mr.
hill.
Pam, thank you.
I can
Could you
maybe
enlighten me a little
shed
bit
some
here?
light on it
Yeah,
for you.
please.
The 13.2 and the 22.66 both represent distances that extend from their respective monuments, which are the small circles on that map, along the property line to the point at which the access line originates. The access line being the line that defines the permit area.
Right.
So between those two lines, you have the KC permit area. But they are points on line, a distance of 13.2 respectively to the south and 22.66 from each of those monuments along the property line that separates the private property from the state land itself.
Okay. So it forms an angle.
Yes.
Okay. And,
But they are points on the line and not into private property.
okay. I will speak to Mr. Fulton, and I think we're probably, sounds like we're gonna have to wait till spring, and from
I
what I
don't have a
understand,
problem with
from what I understand, it sounds like two different professional surveyors' opinions, so I guess
Yeah,
we're
but
gonna
the
have.
27 feet is wrong.
Okay,
There's no question about that, because his deed actually says 25 feet. Now, you start swinging an angle from a spot that is off already, you're gonna lose property down by the water, which is almost 700 feet. And Mr. Fulton did make the comment, it's like a park down there. A lot of work, a lot of work. And what I never mentioned to you people before, way back in June, is that my neighbor ripped up 20 spruce trees that were about 4 feet tall that we had planted together as a buffer. And I had the permission to plant trees, which I didn't realize I had to put randomly, but we wanted a buffer between our two pieces of property. And this has gotten very, very, very nasty.
Okay.
And I want this board to continue the fight for exclusive use. The DEC is way off base with their opinion. As I see it right now, if the DEC gets their way, they still have to have 5 classifications. 1, those that can be forest preserved. 2, those that have riparian rights or rights to the water's edge. And you have several pieces of property on this lake that have riparian rights. 3, there's a section of property down in Broad Auburn that is non-APA jurisdiction. So that would be a 3rd classification. Then you have the 4th classification, which would be any property within any incorporated village cannot be considered forest preserve. So there's your 4th classification. Then the 5th classification, which would be those people with political connections that can basically do whatever they want. And you know that there are those. So please try to keep up the fight to prevent forest preserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to say anything? Didn't sign up. There being no others. Are there any questions or comments on the December board meeting minutes from the abbreviated board here?
No, I make a motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Now the report of the acting executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 50 in the board package. It primarily covers the month of December, and as you'll note, a large percentage of my time, again, has been focused on addressing the financial issues that face the Hudson River area of the regulating district. During this period of time that I'm reporting on, myself and other senior staff members met with 2 assembly persons, Mark Butler and Teresa Sayward, to discuss and to a certain extent educate our representatives on where the regulating district is at financially, the genesis of our current situation, and where we need to get to. We had good conversations, and we hope to continue to work with Mr. Butler and Mrs. Sayward regarding this issue. And I expect that we will. There was also many staff meetings to discuss just this. It is of course, it's our #1 goal, and at the same time, and every day our people continue to perform our mission. Having said that, I do want to add, and it's not in my report because it came about after that, as a component of the annual report, the Authority Budget Office for the annual report for the regulating district, an annual review and measurement report evaluating our achievement of our mission statement goals has to be conducted. Last year, I think, was the first year that this measurement and review was performed. So this makes this the second. This year, this review and evaluation of our performance of our the regulating district's mission will be a part of the annual report. Staff will develop the required measurement pursuant to the Public Authorities Law, and will provide our recommendations to this along with our draft of the annual report at the March 8th board meeting, at which time we would hope that the board would take that report under consideration, review it, and formally adopt it, in a sense, at the April meeting. Just for the board's information now, I'm going to pass around two documents. One's a policy guidance document that this is based on, this measurement and review of our mission statement. And the other is the authority mission statement, what we actually use to measure the level of how we actually achieve the mission. Essentially, it's taking the outline in there and tailoring it to how it actually fits into the regulating district's mission. There's 4 copies there also. There's more here if anybody wants one. And that concludes my report. Be happy to take any questions.
No, not at this time. I'm even busy. All right, thank you. Let's see it on the agenda, but the general counsel's report. You want to do that now, or?
Typically, we do that in the committee session
Okay.
under governance.
Oh, good. That's right. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Which committees are going to be?
There may be no permit system action. Maybe we could probably dispense with the permit committee today. I'm not aware of any.
No. Mr. Hayes, do you have a
No. That's all right,
objection?
yeah.
Matter
Okay.
in with regard
To the governance.
governance. Mr. Hayes also would be the
You would be
choice
acting
for governance.
committee choice.
Well, seeing being there's no old business, I don't see any. And going under the new business with the council report, Mr. Leslie.
Thank you. Sorry for making you
That's
go
all right,
through
jumped
those
the gun.
preliminaries.
That's all right. I'm new at this.
My report is on page 51 of your board packet. There's a couple of things that have happened in and amongst the month, including a new governor and a new executive order with regard to ethics training. We have received word from the Commission on Public Integrity that they will alert us when it is time to conduct that ethics training. Per the executive order, the only one that is mandated to take it would be me as counsel and also as ethics officer. Mike and I have discussed it, and he certainly concurs with my recommendation that he also participate. It cannot hurt to make sure that you're up to speed on all of it. Also, with the turn of the year comes a new legislative session. As you may understand, all of the bills that were in the last legislative session expired at the end of 2010. Therefore, any assemblyman, assemblywoman, or senator who wishes to advance similar language has to reintroduce the bill. So far, of the bills that we were concerned with, only one has been reintroduced. I checked them as of this morning. That is by Senator Breslin, dealing with the transfer of our responsibilities to the Power Authority. There is no same as, which means it has not yet been introduced in the Assembly. We'll continue to check to make sure that should those bills come up, we're prepared to deal with them. With regard to the collective bargaining agreement, we are getting close to finalizing the agreement with the unionized employees. We have sent back what we hope is a final version correcting a couple of minor typos that we saw, and hope to get that back for execution pretty quick.
So right now, it's just language?
It's just language. It's literally, we or they missed that they had misspelled a word, and why not fix it? Because there is some durability to this agreement as it'll progress on through the years. With regard to the 5-county apportionment challenge, the pleadings are in. The counties had their reply to our response to their memo in support of their petition. So if you can, the tennis ball keeps going back and forth. We have one more opportunity to fire the ball back across the court should we choose to take advantage of it. But that opportunity only arises if there is a new substantive issue raised in the county's reply. My reading of their reply didn't see anything new. I still have to close the loop with our Assistant Attorney General representing us in this matter to ensure that he is of like mind. If he is, then basically we've submitted at this point, and now we're down to oral argument. I believe that you have or soon will receive a copy of that final reply via email in the event that any of you want to participate in the oral argument next Tuesday.
Is that a lengthy document?
20-some pages.
That's-
Double-spaced. It reads pretty quick. It's
Okay.
it's
If there are portions of that document that might be more critical than others,
Mhm.
could you, when you email those to us, can you just underline or highlight them or do something?
Sure.
Okay?
It's broken out into 4 separate arguments.
Just let
There's a
people-
preliminary statement, 4 separate arguments, and a conclusion. And there's a heading for each of those, which is designed to do exactly what you're looking to do, allow you to focus in on a particular
Okay.
argument.
It's highlighted.
Other than that, I'm ready to entertain any questions if needed.
Anybody have any questions? Counsel? I have none. Thank you. Finance Committee. Is there any problem with me handling this right now?
No, that's fine, I figured.
Well, actually, there's no, other than approval of the expenses, page 52. Open it up to the general board since I'm the only member on the committee. I'd like to entertain, I need a motion to approve the monthly expenses for Mr. Klein and Mr. Cornell for,
I make a motion.
a second.
Hang on just a second.
Separately.
Yeah. Do we need 4 votes?
Yes.
Okay. That's
Okay,
right.
Smith.
Seconded by,
Hayes,
second.
seconded by Bergstresser.
Yeah.
We will need 4 votes, though.
And we'll,
If they want to abstain, then we're going to have to put that off until next month.
vote individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it individually.
All right. In the case of the expenses for Mr. Klein, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, need 4 votes.
Any opposed?
They're there.
So moved. Now,
Need a new motion for
new
the-
motion for the expenses for Paul Cornell.
Yeah, I make a motion.
I'll second that motion. We have a First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So be it. Operations Committee. Just reports. No old business, new business. Mr. Fulton? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Farrar's report in the Finance Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just trying to get out. Okay, Rick. Mr. Farrar, your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 53 and ends on page 78. For this month, this is the first month that I've included as part of the financials, the entire monthly financial report, which begins on page 56, which is a summary of the disbursements, receipts and disbursements for the month. Goes to 57, and the summary of activity for both watersheds is on page 58. And then 59 through, I believe, page 73 is the detailed budget breakdown for both watersheds. That report, I would recommend at this point be provided to the board on a monthly basis. It was previously provided quarterly.
Okay.
And I think it gives the board an opportunity to see, especially during this funding crisis that the Hudson River is facing, that I think it's important to see or to demonstrate to the board exactly what's being expended in what account. On 75 is the cash flow analysis for the period December 2010 through the end of this fiscal year 2011. Next page is into the third year of the budget. And then the last two pages are the standard legal services contracts and non-legal services contract status. Since the issuance of the packet, there were a couple of items I wanted to mention. One is kind of a small item, but I thought it was worth mentioning, that effective 1/1 of this year, the IRS reimbursement rate for the mileage went to 51 cents. Not a big deal, but if anybody notices their mileage times 1 penny more in their reimbursement check, that's the reason. And that is effective with travel beginning in the year, net the report that you submit. So if it's for prior 1/1, it'll still be at the old rate. Another item that came to my attention post the issuance of the packet was the request from the Public Authority Reporting System for the district to submit the annual budget report. And for the district, that annual budget report would be for the next budget, which you've already approved, which would be the year ending 6/30/2012, which happens to be the last year of our three-year budget. Generally, I don't spend a lot of time discussing that information because it's a report, it's information that the board's already approved. The board approved the three-year budget. However, this time around, there is also a three-year projection, and those are 3 out years beginning 2013 through 15, which for the district would represent the next three-year budget cycle. And historically, the district has just proposed or provided information that was based on the current budget year times generally some, whether it be a cost of living increase, but just a small percentage increase. This year, however, because we are in this downsized situation, and which could be, for a indeterminate period of time, I thought it would make sense to provide that 3-year proposed forecast based on our current run rate, as we're currently staffed, and then increase it based on an increase, a very modest increase in some staffing or labor increases. I'm not prepared to make a recommendation today, but I don't think it's going to be anything that is going to bring us back to the current staffing levels we were at. But that part of the report has to be completed. It does not lock the board into those budgeted amounts because the board still has the statutory authority to develop and approve a 3-year budget. So I don't want the board to lose a whole lot of sleep over what these numbers are going to present, especially given the fact that they are, from this point in time, almost 4 years out. But at the March meeting, because this report, this Paris report is due in March, at the end of March. So we'll have the March meeting, and I will complete the report to include those 3 out years for the board's approval, and then we will submit it through the Paris system. So if the board has any questions on that, I could, between now and the March meeting, provide the board, if the chair thinks this would make sense, some initial passes at what those numbers might look like. They're very high level. We're not talking about the level of detail by account. It's more what do you forecast your revenue, one number. What do you forecast your salaries, one number. So it's not a very detailed report, and it is inclusive of both watersheds. So it's not even split between the 2 watersheds. And I can give the board probably a pass of that in 2 weeks, and at least give you an idea of where I'm heading with that. Unless the board has any questions, that my focus remains cash flow. And in terms of that activity, in terms of revenue coming in and disbursements going out, things are fairly static. We're not spending a lot of money on any capital projects other than those that are already in place. And in terms of revenue, we did, because we moved up the issuance of the renewals, we did realize an increase in receipts for this past month, which we normally wouldn't have realized, and that was about $90,000 because we've gotten those renewals back rather quickly. So,
And I would add the response has been very quick.
Right. So in this case, it's basically, we're not going to get any more money, we're just getting it more quickly than we did in the past, and that certainly doesn't hurt. So. Board has any questions? That's my report.
I don't have any right now. Any questions?
No.
I guess I have one, and I'm not sure whether it should go under finance or should go under operations, and that is on page 53, you note that we advertised and received a bid for the ice sluice project, which I think is moved up to a priority, not an emergency, but a priority.
Correct.
And I'm just wondering, do we continue to go through the mechanics of getting that approved, even though we don't have money in the bank right now to go ahead with the project? Do we go to?
I can give you the procurement perspective on that.
Yep.
The bids that we opened, those bids are good for, I believe, a 90-day period of time.
Okay.
So if we were not able to seek funding or establish funding at least before that 90-day period.
Do you have to award the bid within 90 days?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
Because again, if you didn't do that, then the bidder could say, well, all bets are off and my
They
price.
could hold them longer, though, if they wanted.
Oh, they absolutely could, correct.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the key issue here is identifying funding.
Yeah.
And-
I guess my question is, rather than have to go through the whole thing all over again of going out, looking for bids, putting
Mhm.
together the paperwork to send out,
Mhm.
is there a way to go ahead and award the bid with the contractor knowing that we don't have the money to go ahead and implement the contract start date, so to speak. But can we go through the other regulations, regulatory system that the state has to finally get closer to actually putting a shovel in the ground, so to speak? Or we haven't finished all that, have we?
No.
No.
I mean, again, we have done, in terms of any of the...
You haven't gone to outside?
No. I mean, in terms of OSC or AG review, because we haven't even negotiated the contract.
Right.
Right.
Do we go ahead with all those steps, or could we, or should we?
If we were to, I mean, the scenario is if the board were to award, again, no funding in place, but we award, and that being a caveat to the award,
Yep.
I think OSC would say that you may have to, in any event, you would have to rebid after that 90-day period. Because there could have been, there may be an advantage to the current bidders, I'd have to find that out, but I don't believe that you could go beyond that period.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock,
Yeah.
and if they say this is a priority, the ice sluice is a priority, this is a FERC priority, right?
Right.
If they're saying that that's a priority, and we go ahead and we release a request for bid, we get bids back.
Right.
And now we know, that we believe that this is the best bid we've got that adheres to all of the criteria.
Right.
Then we just sit there and nothing happens.
Right.
Are we doing our job? Or should we go ahead and carry through as if the money were going to be there? So we can get closer to actually putting the ice sluice,
Getting work done.
getting the work done.
Well, I think because we still have a window, I mean, the 90 days certainly is not expired.
Yeah, but that'll go like that.
Right, that at the March meeting, because we'll know a whole lot more by March, that at the March meeting, the board could very well, whether we have identified funding or not, the board at that time could award based on these bids, and then let the chips fall where they may.
It's
The
going.
bid documents included the provision that an award would not be made until mid-March. So even with regard to,
Okay.
or notwithstanding the statement of the 90 days,
Right.
all the bidders knew that the board would not take any action. The earliest that the board would take
Right.
action would be mid-March.
Right.
And I would have to agree that unless procurement guidelines prohibit us from awarding after that time, it's merely a matter of confirming whether the bidders would entertain their bids beyond that date,
Right.
if we wanted to not take action until some point after mid-March.
Okay. Now, the
Um,
people.
And I can work with OSC, so long before we get to the March meeting, we would have established whether or not, there would be a requirement to rebid.
Okay.
So we will know that.
I would, and maybe defer to Mr. Leslie to some extent, if we go too far in the process of moving into an official contract, obviously have locked yourselves into
Right.
some expense, if at the very least, the expense associated with the contractor preparing for what he believes is a job he should be working on in the immediate future. So if the board were to back out after certain points in the contract approval process, or even after it's been approved, there could be some costs associated with it, even if the work was not completed.
Well, and that, to build on that, the contractors who expend funds, although they may not be able to get those funds back from us, would be reluctant to bid again. So if we send this trial balloon up and it pops, we may get no response next time.
Okay. Seems like we're caught between a rock and a hard spot.
We are.
Again.
But, all right, let's hope that maybe there's more information by March, middle of March, that we can at least make a decision that we can go ahead and attempt to do that.
I think we're caught between two rocks with some crumbling concrete in the middle.
Okay. Any other questions from? On that? I suppose operations, no more business. Chief Engineer's report?
Thank you, Mr. Birch. My report begins on page 79. Typical of the last several months, we've seen below average precip in both the Hudson River and the Black River area. And as a result, we've been able to make releases that exceed our inflow at our two major reservoirs, for that matter, the smaller ones too, I believe. And as a result, as of this morning, the Black River reservoirs are now down to within 3 or 4 inches of their target elevation. Indian Lake is within 6 inches, and Sacandaga is coming down within 4 feet now of the target, with far better position. Certainly given the lack of snow, we're sitting fairly comfortably and expect to be down to, if this weather holds for at least another week and a half to 2 weeks, we should be down to our target elevation at Great Sacandaga Lake by the end of January. I will take any questions if there are any, but that will conclude my report.
I guess I just have one, and again, it's, I think, the same question that I asked last year. I'm just looking maybe for the same answer. When the ice forms over the lake, and it's a couple of feet thick right now, I imagine, and we continue to draw down those extra 2 to 3 feet, what are the complications?
In terms of operation or
No, in terms of the ice.
Safety.
ice and safety? Well, there's always a concern that ice can shift. I think anyone out there needs to take certain precaution that they don't run into a fracture or find an area that's weak as a result of the water shifting.
Yeah.
But in terms of historic operation, certainly the amount of drawdown that we're experiencing now is after the ice has formed is not unusual for the historic operation. The 6 to 8 feet that we've drawn down once ice has formed is no different than really what we've experienced over the last.
And then the second question would
70
be
years.
with regards to the Conklinville, or the Bachelorville Bridge. The state is, or the contractor, I guess, has agreed to continue to work through the winter, and they're doing things to keep the water free from ice. Do we have any play in that? Is there anything that we're doing?
I do not know. No one's contacted me concerning the operation. Mr. Clark might have more information, but I haven't been contacted at all.
Michael?
With respect to the bridge.
Yeah,
With respect to the bridge.
open water, prop pilings.
DOT, and I believe the contractor also, they've published warning flyers, they've posted them everywhere. I can't say for certain. I believe they published notices in, I think I saw one in the local paper that, there's one in the Gazette. I'm trying to remember if there's one in the Sacandaga Express or not. But they've put it in the restaurants, the bars, I've seen it in, I think they put it in most of the Stewarts around the area, just around the lake. They're trying to get it out there. Everybody local or in the area is going to know about it. So and if you've been over the bridge, anybody that's been over the bridge would have seen that they've got barricades and lights and that type of thing that's out there, and it's quite extensive. I do know that, but we ourselves have not had any real conversation with the general contractor or New York State DOT.
How about liability?
Well,
What
we
is
have
there?
transferred the lands underlying the reservoir at that spot to DOT for the duration of the project, as well as it's a patent, the word escapes me, patent danger, it's obvious. There's open water. It is, while not lit, it is as lit as the rest of the reservoir would be at night. And during the day, it's open water that's easily visible, as well as DOT's warnings. I think we're we're in good shape.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Clark?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Again, my report primarily for the month of December. I mentioned in my last report from several weeks ago now that access permit renewal applications have been mailed. That was indeed the case, and since that time, staff at the Sacandaga Field Office has largely been involved in processing those renewals, and it's a large task, and it's even seems a little larger this year with fewer people. In addition to that, there were to wrap up the year, and of course before the snow hit, there were additional field surveys done, as well as actually 1,100 feet of shoreline, 1,150 feet of shoreline that were erosion control work was performed on, and I have to explain here. Native materials were used. It was done from land with the few maintenance and field personnel that we have left, and it involved no purchase of materials in keeping with our tabling or deferring our erosion control project work for 2010. These were areas that were relatively easy to get to and did have a high priority at the essentially they had a need. On top of that, our daily operations continue at the field office, or certainly our contribution to them. And our first snow surveys have been done, and I'm sure the Black River area is ahead of us at this point. I think they generally are. That will continue throughout the winter, as you would expect. And that's
Got it?
report, yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Clark? Black River report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our report starts on page 142, and I'll just highlight a couple of our events throughout this last month. If you'll notice in my notes that our server we had a large problem with our server in the Watertown office, and took up a little bit of all of our time as my administrative assistants worked to bring it back up, and we're kind of limping at this point, but we hope to be soon full board again. In the field office, as Mr. Clark has already mentioned, we did begin our snow surveys for the year. They started last week, and they usually we'll take 2.5 days of being out in the field doing them, and it's every other week. Do you want to give that fact that you gave me? Do you mind sharing that?
No, I don't.
Actually, Rob Mr. Fulton gave a great little fact on our snow surveys that I thought was interesting when I first came in this morning, and asked if he might share it with us.
It mainly pertained to the Hudson River area, but we did have for the first survey of the year at all of our Hudson River stations, measurement of 0 inches of snow. There might have been a trace of snow, but for all intents and purposes, it was 0, and that's the third time that's occurred since records were kept by the district starting in 1940.
And that what date was approximately when?
The first week in January,
Wow.
January 3rd through the 5th.
Last week.
Yep. So,
Wow.
but,
Thank you.
I don't really know where the Black River measurements came in terms of historic measurements, but they were fairly low actually
We are
too,
low.
relative to their historic average for this time of year.
Thank you. I thought that was interesting that we should share. So we did begin, and we do have snow, and we are still working on Gate 5 at the Stillwater Dam, and looking for the delivery of our stem to be coming in end of January, we hope, and we will be replacing that as soon as it is delivered. And also working on a roof entrance at the gatehouse at Stillwater Dam, which is seems to be really.
At the one when you walk down the stairs, that's the first
It
building you
is.
go in?
It is. And we put a small roof over the doorway because we've always had a problem there with ice buildup. And there's a lot of wind, and so they've put a roof up and little sidewalls, and it's really seemed to do exactly what we wanted it to do. So kudos to the staff. Their design, and they put it together for us, so. And any other questions? The rest of it's pretty much explained in my report.
How much snow do you have now at Stillwater?
We have around 10 inches.
Keep it there.
Say what?
Keep it there.
Keep it there.
The server's being addressed up at the water tower? The
Our
computer server?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
I'm working with Mr. Ferrara on that, thank you.
Okay. We've been you were having trouble with that last month, a month ago.
That's when it
Well,
began.
the server's, the server.
The server.
Yeah.
Right, the update is the server's running.
Right,
It's not performing a backup.
No.
exactly.
And the latest update I have is that they're trying to determine whether or not it's hardware or software.
Yeah.
And now they're back to, it's a hardware problem, which might serve us well, because if it's hardware, then it's Hewlett Packard, which we are still under warranty. So, so HP is working with Microsoft and our network guys to
I
figure
know
out
we're
what the
working
heck it
again
is.
yesterday on it. Were you working with them too?
Yeah, they may actually get in, right, I think this could get resolved, inside of a week. so.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Rick? Thank you. Committees.
We'll just do that. They'll do that. Yeah.
We'll address that. I'll address that at the next meeting. The committees. New
Committee
committee
assignments.
Reassignments of the committees.
Okay, so you don't want to do it,
We can do that next month, right?
March?
No problem. Table it and we'll do it in March.
Table that.
What I'll do is I'll contact you,
Okay.
or we'll talk about it. Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to table that till next month. Is there any old board business we need to address? Anybody want to introduce any new business? You guys are making my job easy.
It's our goal in life.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to, just ask one thing.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of surplus equipment up at the Mayfield
Mhm.
district there with vehicles and stuff like that. I was just kind of wondering if there was something that we could dispose of them and maybe put some bids on the things they have up there and put some funds back into general funding.
Such as?
I think there's vehicles and there's
Okay.
probably other equipment that's probably in the boathouse and everything else.
That just isn't used, do we need?
It's not
There are vehicles that are ready to be salvaged right now, disposed of, and there is some equipment, Mr. Hayes is correct. So there's at least 2 vehicles. We have had discussions about that, so I think we are.
It's a question of
Methodology.
Right, the CFO is correct, it's just a matter of what method we use to dispose them, and whether or not it's just passenger vehicles, or do we include a heavy vehicle, that's a heavy truck.
We put together something.
Like a list or something?
We do have that, we can get that to the board.
We can make a recommendation in March.
Sure.
Yes, that's not a problem.
Yeah, right, a list and a recommendation. Yeah, that's a good point.
Spring's a good time to sell some.
Yeah.
Maybe we can keep the doors open another week or 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Any other questions or comments from the board? The abbreviated board we have. Resolution for the next board meeting in Utica, I believe it is, Utica, New York.
I'd make a motion that we have our March 8th meeting at Utica State Office Building.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd remind staff that I don't know if all the new board members have ID tags, but we'll need them if we go to the Utica, to the state office building.
Right, you don't,
That's right.
it facilitates
It facilitates
entry,
getting
but
in.
you don't
Okay.
necessarily need one.
You don't have to
Certainly,
have
It'll
it.
get you
Right.
right in there, yeah.
Yep, but if we've got enough lead time, if we can get them together, that's fine.
Okay. We had no need for an executive session, so I guess I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is it 11:11?
No.
6 minutes.